Welcome to Workforce Wednesday. Today's topic is building a strong foundation for college success in adult education and literacy. My name is Julio Medina, and with me is Mike Sines, and we're going to be the host for this session. We're from the Career Pathways Professional Development Center. We're PD specialists. We're going to be assisting our presenter today, Dr. Olga Escamilla. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Dr. Escamilla. Dr. Escamilla has served in adult education for approximately 29 years. She began her career in adult education as a teacher's aide and progressively moved to GED instructor, ABE supervisor, serves as the administrator of the AEL Professional Development Center, and served as an AEL program director. Dr. Escamilla is a senior lecturer for the Department of Educational Leadership and Counseling at Texas A&M University, Kingsville, where she has taught classes for the Master's in Adult Education program for over 10 years. Dr. Escamilla served as a regional representative for COABE from July 2019 to June 2022. She currently serves as the president of Texas National Organization for Student Success. She was the past chair of the Association of Adult Literacy Professional Developers, where she served as the chair from January 2021 to June 2023, and is currently the at-large representative for the TALI Board. Dr. Escamilla holds a certificate in data entry, business technology, associates in science, bachelor's in business administration, accounting and economics, and master's in business administration, focus in management, and a doctorate in leadership studies. Back in her college days, she used to say that she was a professional student, but now she understands that she was always a lifelong learner. So thank you so much for being with us today. And Dr. Escamilla, I'll open it up to you.
Thank you so much, Julio. Welcome, everybody. You are here for Workforce Wednesday, building a strong foundation for college success in AEL. So our objectives for today, a lot of information, so I'm pretty sure we'll be able to cover it. We're going to define a college-going culture. We're going to learn about the 9 elements of the college-going culture. We're going to discuss what programs can do. We're going to share an action plan template, and then we'll consider what programs can incorporate to prepare students for that post-secondary education. So the first question up is, what is your program doing to prepare your students for post-secondary education?
We have one here from Evangelina Benavides, Career Navigation. Melinda Montoya says College and Career Readiness class. Cody Evans says we are offering a college prep program to introduce students to the concept of college and college lifestyle. Trio, and then college prep class. Daryl, could you elaborate a little bit on Trio?
Trio, they guide the students. Mostly they help them get started in college. And if they're the first descendants of graduates, first college graduates in their family, it's a really good program. They have it all. So I would recommend anybody look into it because it really has a lot of benefits, a lot of scholarships.
Excellent. Thank you for that, sir. The doctors can we also have college prep classes. Career Navigator meets with most all students. And then Norma Montes from EPIC says speaker and career navigation. Kelly Meeks also says Navarro has a college preview day.
Excellent. I can already tell there's quite a bit going on in some of your campuses. But we're going to talk through this. And those of you who may think you are not, or you're maybe not familiar with all of the different things, maybe you'll get an idea of what you potentially may be doing that is considered part of this college going culture. Now, so thank you so much. Let's move on. We have another question here. You've already shared some things that you're doing, but what is that college going culture? So I'll give you a minute.
We got Daryl saying an ITech plan. Cody saying the mindset of post-secondary education is essential to successful careers. We got Kelly with an expectation that you are going to college if for a degree or certificate. Also, expectation to continue to college is a given by Chair Crawford.
So a college going culture refers to that environment. Somebody hit it right on the head. That environment, the attitude and practices in your schools or programs and communities that encourage students and families to obtain the information, the tools, and the perspective to enhance their access to and success in post-secondary education. So it encompasses quite a bit of information there in this definition. So it's a lot about what we're doing in the schools. And this talks about communities, about encouraging students. So in terms of what you're doing, what stands out to you in this definition?
So we see here attitudes from Ms. Kelly Meeks, and then Hannah Baker says obtain information and tools.
Hey, very good. So I'm going to go on. And our next question is, so why strengthen the college going culture in AEL? What is that AEL's ultimate goal for our students?
Evangelina says getting them on a career path. Daryl says community improvement, self-improvement. Shara shares better opportunities for become successful in a career and be self-sufficient.
Yes, very good.
We have one more. It says Ms. Norma Montes says for a student to feel prepared and have mindset. One more, because our students aren't always offered this chance, they are not expected to succeed. And then Frida Thomas says to be lifelong learners.
So the ultimate goal for our students in AEL is for them to find and keep a job. Once we've taken them through education, high school equivalency, learning English, going to IET, which is that integrated education and training, our ultimate goal for our students is work. But each level of education that our students complete may help them develop the skills to qualify for those higher paying jobs. And those educational credentials can signal to employers that our students are able to plan ahead and meet deadlines and follow through on those important tasks. As I've experienced, many of our students have so many barriers and they stop out and then they come back, but that continuation is how persistent our students are, and that's a whole another message. So students learning is strongly tied to the expectations of those around them and the quality of their opportunities to learn. So minority students in particular, they perform poorly when their teachers do not believe in their abilities. And consequently, in the college going culture, educators believe that all of their students can learn at a very high levels, and students respond to those high expectations with those great efforts, persistence, and achievement. So you all have shared that already in the chat. Kelly said that students, they're offered this chance and they don't have that expectation to succeed. But if we ingrain that in them, and then Frida said to become lifelong learners, then our students will continue. So it's all about the message that we send in our programs, right? So let me talk a little bit about some information from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and Education Pays. Individual experiences differ. So this is just national numbers, national data, depending on factors such as maybe the occupation or the field of the degree. But as you can see here, the doctoral degree, their median usual weekly earnings is 2,083, and then their unemployment rate is 1.0. So if you can see from this chart, we have individuals here with less than a high school diploma, median usual weekly earnings. I think this depends on the area and the job, but the unemployment rate is 5.5. So you can see as their educational level increases, so does their median usual weekly earnings. And then also you could see that the unemployment rate, as they're increasing their educational level, that the unemployment rate gets lower as they continue on with their education. So this is a visual of the usual weekly earnings. I think this is even more powerful than the chart because you could see here that this is a representation of these numbers here. So you could see this is very visual. Look, if you have less than a high school diploma, here's where you're at. But as you gain in education, here's where you're gonna be potentially. And then I also have the visual for the unemployment rate. Like you could see that with less than a high school diploma, your unemployment rate is here at that 5.5. And as you increase your unemployment rate by education, nationally shows that it decreases with your education. I like to share this information with my students because that gives them a really good visual. So do you share this type of information with your students? Is this something that you've talked about or that you've shared about their educational attainment and how it impacts just in general?
Kelly Meeks says yes, that they do share that information with their students. We also have Tana saying yes, definitely, and my students have also mentioned this. And Daryl also says yes.
Thank you for responding. I think that's really important that you are sharing that information in those visuals because I think that they could speak volumes, couldn't they? So let's continue. Now that we've talked about all these things, I want to share with you the 9 elements of that college going culture. As I go through these, you could be thinking about some of the things that you do in your program, or maybe that you could do in your program. And I'll share with you also those tools that you can use for evaluating those. And these 9 elements of a college going culture were adapted from Patricia and McDonough's Building a College Culture, the Needs, the Goals, and Principles, and a case study. So these were adapted for adult ed. So let's talk about those 9 elements and how we can, if we're not already, incorporating them into AEL. So the 9 elements are here. We start with college talk, and we have quite a few others, but here they are. I'm going to leave them up for a minute to let you read through those. And we're going to start with college talk and go through all of the 9 expectations. All right, let's get started with college talk. So that clear communication about what it takes for college access and success, those conversations that we have with our students, they must take place in an ongoing manner. And all instructors and program staff must share their own experiences. And I say this because if our students don't have someone that's had that experience already, then who are they going to learn from? So instructors can share their college experiences, maybe produce newsletters to share with the students and families and teachers, which include college information. Kelly mentioned that they have like a tour of the college, and that is another really great activity. So maybe have students research different colleges and programs of study. And that all goes along with that career exploration, because along with career might go education. So we want to start talking to our students about, well, what college do you think you want to attend? Or maybe you're already at a college campus and you are hoping to transition your students into the college program there. And that is excellent. There's nothing wrong with that. To have them start thinking about, where can I go after this? What potential is there after I complete here? What are the possibilities? Because they're going to have that. Somebody mentioned the ITech plan, career exploration. So through those venues, they determine what kind of education they need. So yes, we're transitioning them hopefully into a certificate program, because that's what we do, or maybe into a college course. But where do we go from there? You can also have the students write essays about college. What would you bring to college? Because if they don't know, then this is a good opportunity for us to do activities for them to get them to know a little bit more about that college going culture. Because the other thing that we have to consider is our students, majority, not all, maybe didn't finish school. They dropped out. They're coming to get their high school fluency, or they're coming to learn English, and maybe they're coming from another country. So how are we going to educate them about college and even put that idea into their head about going to college if that's not something they've experienced, a family member hasn't experienced?
A couple comments here. We have Daryl who commented GED test scores, obtaining college hour for high scores or official GED test. And then Kelly says it's good for the professors to come talk with AEL student about their class and how they teach, what's expected, and test, giving them background.
That's a great idea. All right. So let's talk about those clear expectations. So a goal of post-secondary success should be communicated as part of the culture of the program. And that again can be done through the ITech plan, because what's our goal? Training, post-secondary education, and training. So having ongoing conversations about that college readiness and talking about how they're gonna be moving from learning English or getting their high school fluency and then into a program, that's always setting them up for that expectation. So our students need to know that adult education literacy is not just about getting a high school fluency or not just about learning English. It's about college and career, getting a job and keeping a job, because this is where we want our students to go, because this has been the expectation since 2014. So we need to keep pushing this message about continuing their education, getting a job, getting a career. So, and this is just rhetorical, what message does your program send to students when they come and sign up for class? Think about that. Let's move on to information and resources. So students must have access to that comprehensive and up-to-date resources. So instructors should be aware of available information and incorporate it into daily classroom practices. So some ideas to promote the continuation of education are have a college center where information to various colleges is available to students, and then have college banners. Instructors can provide information about where they went to college and share their college experience. I really like the different college banners. Maybe students don't have an idea, but how can we share that college going culture if we're not putting things in front of our students to keep seeing it and keep wanting to move forward for that? Have the students do research and present on colleges, and you have representatives from colleges visit the classroom. And I think Kelly mentioned professors come and talk about your classes and your expectations so students get an idea. Because again, our students didn't finish high school. So do they know about going to college? They've been out of the classroom for a long time. So they need to be reminded of those expectations. So let's continue to the next one. So a comprehensive CPN model. And when I say CPN, I mean Career Pathways Navigator. All career pathway navigators are experts in college knowledge, so that all the decisions about coursework and career options are made with that post-secondary goal in mind. You might be asking, so what is college knowledge? College knowledge includes an understanding of the options that exist beyond high school. So those requirements for applying to a school, financial literacy in terms of how do you finance a post-secondary education? What are your options? Maybe the campus expectations and norms. I had one of my nieces and she said, oh my gosh, I went to college and these kids were acting like it was high school, and it is not. So she had a different expectation of a college campus than what she was seeing. So our college campus should be a higher level than high school, correct? And at least behavior wise. And maybe it's because she was more mature than the other students. But what are those expectations of how you behave or act on a campus, and what are those norms? So we want to be able to provide information about what institutions offer. And there's so many other aspects of going to college or pursuing additional credentials. So we want to be able to provide that information. So then testing and curriculum. So students must be knowledgeable about the standardized exams. Right now, we do talk to them about the high school equivalency. Have we talked to them about the TSIA, that Texas Success Initiative Assessment? And now there's the Texas Success Initiative Assessment, TSIA 2. And then there's also SAT and ACT. So are we providing additional information or resources necessary to prepare our students for those exams, or even to let them know, hey, if you don't score college ready on the Texas high school equivalency, then you're going to need to take this exam, and provide that information for them.
We have Miss Kelly makes us TSIA, and that there's nothing wrong with taking development ed classes.
Thank you, Kelly. That is so true. Sometimes individuals have to take, and I'm going to tell you right now, I graduated from high school and I went to college. I had been out for a couple years and I had forgotten a lot. So I went to a college campus and they had me take a test that I did not prepare for. I scored really low in math. And they said, you're going to have to take developmental ed classes, because I had forgotten everything. I graduated from school. I had a child, and it was about taking care of that child. And now I was going to college and I went to a campus and they're like, hey, take a test. Did I know any of this? No, I just knew that, like our students, I walked in and I said, I'm ready. And they did what they needed to do. They gave me a test. And so I was put in developmental ed classes. So there is nothing wrong with developmental ed classes. They put you back up to speed. Thank you for sharing that. Next is instructor involvement. So instructors, they should be knowledgeable about college information. For example, admissions. What is admissions? What is that process that students have to go through? Admissions requirements, special programs, because some of our students might have learning difficulty, and we need to be able to let them know that there are special programs and there's an office that's going to be able to help you as you go through college. And it should integrate that college information and college practices into their classroom. So we need to be providing our students as much as possible that information, because our expectation of our students is that they should be thinking about continuing their education beyond what we are providing. So have those conversations about how college differs from the program that students are currently in. You have individuals come and talk to your students and share those expectations of what's to come. Not to scare them, just to inform them. So what are skills that can be provided by our instructor? Well, study skills. Our students have been out of school for such a long time. Do they know how to study? Do they have time to study? Do we need to talk to them about making time to study and some of the ways that they can study? What about note taking? Do our students take notes? Do they know how to take notes? I can tell you that my children did not have books, and I don't even know if they knew how to take notes. But I mentioned to them before they went to college, I was like, take notes when you're in school and you're going to have a book. I was the one that informed my children about what to expect and what they needed to do, because those conversations might not have been happening with all the students. So again, what is it as an instructor and career navigators also? I think if the message is provided through our career navigators and the instructors, that's like double awesome, because it's being reinforced by each other. Talking about grades. Do we really give grades for our work that our students do in class? Well, they get grades pass or fail through the distance learning that they do, but do we provide grades to our students? Oh, you did great. Here's some things that you need to work on, but we don't assign grades. So different professors have different grading, not just styles, but different grading rubrics that they use for different assignments. They might do points, they might do percentage, what have you. So we have to talk to our students about the different ways that instructors provide great academic honesty, financial aid, tutoring, that our colleges do provide tutoring. Again, I mentioned those special services, maybe time management. And one of the biggest things that our instructors can do in terms of in the classroom is raising the students' self-esteem, letting them know that, yes, everybody can succeed. You can go to college. Does anybody want to share anything here?
Miss Kelly says, way back in the day, I remember these days of taking small recorders to class to back up. That's awesome.
Yes, back in the day, the little bitty recorders with cassette tapes. Thank you for that reminder. Yes, I would record my sessions and then I'd go home and I'd retake notes to make sure I didn't miss anything. So let's continue. Student involvement through events. We should provide them with that information about the college application process and encourage them to view themselves as college material. Because how many of our students come in and think, hey, I'm going to go to college, potentially because we have adult ed programs on college campuses. But what about those that are not? How are we encouraging those students to continue and go to a college campus? So the more they know, hopefully the more they'll be apt to go to a college campus and be brave about it, because they're like, okay, I know about this. My instructor told me about this. But what about that college application? Do we provide college application workshops, financial aid workshops? An opportunity for a visit to a college campus. These are just some things that we can provide for our students. So let's talk about college partnerships. Many of you are already on college campuses, but what if you're not? It's so important to create a strong partnership with your local college so that students can visit the campus. So you can have those individuals from different departments come and talk to your students, whether it's a campus recruiter that comes and talks about financial aid, that talks about the support services, even clubs and organizations. That is more important so that students feel like they are a part of that campus community.
We have a comment here from Carol. She says, digital literacy is very important. Most of our students feel like they are digital savvy because they use social media, etc., but they do not know how to use a computer. They are unaware of how misguided they can be in digital literacy. Thankful for our CS for digital literacy standard. I'm taking the CS as content standards, right?
Oh, they're coming. Yes. But also to the Distance Education Professional Development Center for providing our adult education and literacy programs with some free digital literacy that we could provide to our students. How are we preparing our students for that digital literacy piece? Thank you, Carol. That is another super important factor. So let me go on to the next one. And I think this is our last one, that ongoing communication. There should be ongoing communication between the career pathway navigators and the teaching staff to create that seamless transition for students to post-secondary education. Again, that message should be the same. So whatever the career navigator is talking should be what the instructor is talking, because we want our students to know that message. Again, what is the goal in adult education? Post-secondary education and training and work. Get a job, keep a job. So the hope is that students are going to continue their education because they see themselves as college materials. When we have that ongoing communication throughout our programs, our students are going to be receiving that message everywhere they go, and that's going to be ingrained. They are college material and they can do this. So what can programs do? Now that we've gone through the 9 elements, did you find that maybe your program does have some things going on? And if you don't, maybe initiate conversations so that you can begin to incorporate many of these things into not only career navigation, but into your instruction. And that's why we have Workforce Wednesday, is because we are to include workforce activities into instruction, because we're preparing, whether our students get a high school equivalency and transition to work, we are preparing them ultimately for work. And how are we doing that in our classrooms? By providing instruction that is going to be helpful for them to be able to keep a job. All right. So again, what can our programs do? And it's kind of rhetorical, but I do have the college going culture rubric. And this has to do with those 9 elements that we talked about to support and encourage a college going culture in a program. So what you would do is I have each one here, the college talk, the clear expectations, the information and resources, the comprehensive career pathway navigator model. We have all of these here, the 9 elements, right? So what you would do is take this and rate it. And what you're looking for, if you get a 4, because your 4 is this is routine, it worked, we model it for others. You have 3, this is in place and we have evidence that it occurs. 2 is plans are in place to implement this at our program. And then number 1 is our program hasn't started working in this area. You have this rubric. And so you would go through each one of these aspects of the 9 elements and you would rate it based on 1, 2, 3, or 4, and then you would provide a score. So you have an idea of where you're at each one of these, because the goal is to incorporate the 9 elements, not just maybe 1 and 3 and number 6, but it's to incorporate all of these elements into your program to have that college going culture. And when I say college going culture, we hope that our students are going to be getting into integrated education and training, then continue on to a job. So, and the other thing is when we adult educations provide that certificate or that initial training, our hope is that our students are going to continue. And through this college going culture, meaning we're talking about college and we're letting our students know that, yes, you are college material, they are going to continue. And we share the information about the wage scale, then they're going to think, I really do need to keep going to college because the more education I get, the better money I can make to support my family. And that is that message. Hopefully our students are willing to complete a certificate training, whatever it is that programs are offering, and then moving them forward. All right. So this is our current efforts. We take an inventory, we assess our present activities and challenges. We determine, again, 1 to 4, what is it? Where are we low? So from this, what's our next step in integrating any of the 9 elements into your program or classroom? So we've looked at the rubric. Well, the next step is that college going culture action plan. So what are we going to do? Based on the 9 elements, we're going to list activities here. So you can have an activity for each one of the elements. What's the purpose? What is the implementation steps? Who's responsible? What resources are we going to need? What are some potential challenges? Remember, we always want to set a due date to solve any of these issues, right? And then how will we recognize successes and results? How is success going to be measured? So again, we look at the rubric, develop an action plan based on what activities of the 9 elements. It could be more than just the 9 elements because we're talking about how are we going to incorporate college talk? What activities are we going to do to incorporate college talk? And it could be more than one thing. What are the clear expectations that we're going to ensure that all students are prepared for going to college? So what are some activities? We would list all those out and then complete the action plan for each activity. How are we going to provide information and resources? I think a career navigator can have their own action plan in terms of what our career navigator is going to do. How are we going to share this between the navigator and among program staff, whether it be a navigator, whether it be a director, whether it be a supervisor, or whether it be an instructor? So how are we going to share all of this throughout the program? So this is just a start. So I'm thinking huge already, but little steps to incorporate these things are going to get you to where you need to be in terms of sharing this information with your students and motivating them. So what can programs incorporate? Well, we have essential knowledge and skills, which is explain effective note taking. We talked about that. Some students may not remember how to take notes or maybe are not thinking about taking notes. They just sit there in class and think it's going to stay in their brain. How to use a campus library. I have students in a master's course, and what do most of our students do? They Google it. And it's like, wait a minute, we have a campus library with actual peer-reviewed research. So we need to teach our students about the campus library and what they can get instead of getting it off the World Wide Web. But the campus library offers these articles for free. What is the role of memory and learning? Do our students know about the role of memory and learning? And then provide information on time management and tools for organization. Career exploration. I know we already do this, but how is this enforced? Whether it's done by a navigator in the classroom, how do you continue that career exploration and not just have one activity and move on? How do you continue that throughout the class and come back to what the students shared and how that's kind of reinforcing that college going? Okay, we talked about this career. And so you have an idea of what careers your students are interested in. So as you're providing lessons, you're connecting it to their careers so that we can make it relevant to our students. And then discuss motivation and positive self-efficacy because our students need to be motivated. motivated. Sometimes what we share with them are the only positive words they've heard all day. So we want to be sure that our students are motivated and have that positive self-efficacy. And we want to share about various campus resources and then share about different types of tests, because how much do our students know about those tests that they have to take? And what about the Apply Texas website? How much do our students know about Apply Texas, how they need to apply to go to a college? And then a few more, do we talk to them about the research process? Potentially, if we're going through the content standards, we do incorporate that research process. Writing skills, personal wellness, mental wellness too, learning styles. Are students aware of how they learn best? And are we incorporating different activities in the classroom or different ways for our students to learn? Are we incorporating various activities that incorporate the learning styles into our instruction? Active learning, problem solving, again, financial literacy, financial aid and scholarships. Have we done college searches with our students to get more information about what the potentials are? And then college culture, academic behavior, academic integrity, and that goes along with writing, the research piece, that academic integrity and how those are connected. And then technology. How are we teaching our students those digital skills? And then let's not forget those employability skills, because these skills are super important. Because again, what is our goal for our students? To get a job and keep a job. So once we incorporate those employability skills, a lot of it is critical thinking, adaptability, problem solving, oral and written communication. How are they communicating with their bosses, with their coworkers? Even collaboration, that teamwork, and making sure that our students understand when they're part of a team that they must contribute to the teamwork. It's not just about having somebody else do it and you get the credit, right? How many of you had college courses where you had to do teamwork? Somebody didn't pull their weight. How did that feel? So we talk about these things so our students can understand about teamwork. Again, creativity, responsibility, professionalism, ethics. I say it again, technology use, because how do our students apply for jobs nowadays? Majority of the time, how do our students apply for jobs? Online, through different programs. Not everybody has the same program that you apply for a job on, and every different application program is unique. So we want to be able to get our students to understand that and how to have those various skills. So with that said, throughout the session today, we've defined college going culture. We've learned about the 9 elements of a college going culture. We discussed what our programs can do. We talked about the college going culture rubric and the action plan. And then we've considered what programs can do to incorporate to prepare those students for that post-secondary education. So does anybody have any questions at this time? Or if you have a comment that you want to share? We started out with what is college going culture, and maybe you've thought of some things that your program is already doing that you didn't think was part of this. And now you're like, hey, wait a minute, we do that. So yeah, we have this one aspect. So any thoughts, comments? Then the handouts, the information is placed in there also. I did mention that I was going to share those 2 documents. I can share those 2 documents right now, the college going rubric and the college going culture action plan.